So in this video, we're going to dissect thought. And the reason I got into the dissection of thinking was because I was into science and physics. And I always wanted to get, like, what's the smallest indivisible, what's the fundamental thing, right? And so I was thinking, well, whatever the fundamental thing is, it's that thing plus thought. Otherwise, you wouldn't be like thinking about it or perceiving it. So like anything that you're experiencing is the object itself plus thinking. So we know that thinking, at very least, is an irreducible part of what a phenomenon is. So who knows what the object is, but we do know that anything that we're going to be studying in terms of science is like, it has to be tied to thought. So I decided, why not dissect thinking? So with any thought, like, what does it take to have a thought? What are the parts of it, right? So with every thought, you have the thought itself, we'll say, is positive, and you have what is not the thought, and that's everything else, right? Because to have a thought or to have an object, you have to have a beginning and an end, or at least a beginning. Otherwise, you can't differentiate it as an object. So every thought has to be what it is, otherwise you wouldn't be looking at it, and then it has to be what it is not, otherwise you couldn't be looking at it and it wouldn't have a space, right? And so then what you also have to have is something else. And that something else has to be something that is neither the thought itself nor everything else holding it apart or keeping them from coming in contact. There has to be something separating what the object is from what the object is not. Otherwise, one of them would bleed into the other one continuously, and you would have non-objectness or non-endingness of either the object itself or one of the environmental factors, and it would be washed out of perception, if that makes any sense. So everything is three things: what it is, what it is not, which is the contrast, and that which serves to separate what it is from what it is not, but it is also not, and it is either of those things. So since this is thought, you're going to notice that this looks kind of like everything that you could ever possibly think about. So you get positive, negative energy, like from the separation. You get object, not object, else, right? So the interesting thing is that you get a trinity. That's what people have discovered a lot of times. When people discover, it's just like study God or study existence. They find it's Trinitarian in nature, like nearly everybody. So this reflects it. The cool thing is that this, everything else, if you take this as an object, both the object and the non-object themselves become a single, they're both in this category. From the perspective of E, both positive and negative are in E's negative category. E taken as an object, right? If positive is taken as an object, then this serves as its contrast, and this serves to separate it from its contrast. If this is taken as an object, this serves to separate it from this. But if this is taken as an object, these two are both in this environmental category. They are both outside of it. So then what you need is essentially, we'll draw this. This would be three-dimensional, right? You get so positive and negative together become what was it? Oh. Okay, so you get when you get positive and negative separated, the else, as it gets taken into category, you get what else is, which is E plus. That's everything that this field is. And then what is it not? That is both of these. And so something slightly finer separates. So these two combined is this. No, I got that wrong. Those two combined are what E is not. Okay? So if you put these two together, you get what E is not. And so what E is transfers to here, and it's separated by what we will call C. And so this is light, but it's also a conceptualization. So this is also like a standard model of like particle manifestation. Like the more imaginary things are, the more it behaves like this. So energy is separated from matter and space, right? That's what this is. So this is matter, this is space, this is energy. So matter and space are separated from energy by light. And that is awareness. So this is also the observer, right? Like as E As everything else is observing, like what separates positive and negative, what separates the object from not the object, what really separates it. It's the observer. Right. So that which separates the observer from both the observation of space, right? I see the object and I see the object's environment. What separates the observer from space, time, and whatever is light, which is observing, awareness. Awareness of is what separates or divides the observer from the looking. All types of electromagnetic vibration, not just optical, but all types of EMF vibration, which is all movement, is what you would call light. So all light perceived by an observer is what separates object from not object, positive from minus. It's also conceptualization, right? I've conceptualized the marker. That's what separates it from the environment, is its concept. It's the separating force. Conceptualization is kind of synonymous with awareness, is packeted in. This is what's inside of every thought. So as you dig into thought, it's actually all of this like blossoms out of there. It's like a seed. Like it's as you dig into thought, like what it just gets, it blossoms into more stuff. So in reality, when you dig into it, reality actually gets bigger than where you started, right? So conceptualizations separate objects in space from each other. So what separates conceptualization? So what do you, so from the point of conceptualization, both awareness, so space and time is the environment of C. Space, time plus so all three of these things are the environment to see, right? So what separates light or conceptualization from or what? Anyway, let's just draw it. So C plus is conceptualization, is light, right? But C minus, what is not light, is matter / object, space, and energy, basically, or else the observer, the I. So this is one step back from the observer, basically. The observer of space and time. That separates space and time. How is it doing that? Because of the observer. This is taking a step back. So this is observing the observer. And observing the observer is thinking. So see that thought is that which separates the observing from the matter and the space. So you have the conceptualization, which is seeing, which is perception, and that sees. So conceptualization sees matter and space, environment. And those things are separated by E, energy. Right? So this is seeing. It sees a difference, it sees each one. So then thinking is what separates like further thinking, right? It's just further thought. Like this is kind of deep, but also pretty basic. So thinking separates, right? It's the only thing that separates the observer from what is observed, including observation. Like you observe yourself observing yourself. So observation isn't merely observation because you can observe yourself observing. So a deeper layer of observation is required for that, which is thought. And so this is where it gets interesting, is that you have thought, and then you have what is not thought. And then here again, so thought includes thinking, conceptualization, awareness, matter, energy, space. So to observe that again, what separates awareness of thought from thought? And it ends there. Like this is the end of the universe. It's this pattern. You have thinking that, and so you have thinking, and then down here you have non-thinking. And so what separates what separates thought from not thought? Like if you were going to separate thought, it has to like, okay, there's a thought. I just started thinking a thought right now, ready, go. I've never thought this thought before now. Okay, stop thinking that thought. Is that how thought thinks? I had an idea. Did the idea start or stop? Well, when did you not have that idea? So it must have started at some point. Right? Do you remember it? If so, if you're recalling it from a space from which it was not previously existing, then it has to obey these rules of an object that exists. So it has boundaries. It has where it is and it has where it is not. And then what separates those two states from each other than the observer, the I, the conceptualization, which is also perception. So when you conceptualize anything, you're also perceiving it, which is becoming aware of it. C, right? Matter, space, energy, or else. C, which is light, right? Light is vibrations. Light is aware. Light is vibrations going somewhere. Vibrations of this infinite medium going to this infinite black hole that's like sucking them up and turning them into perception. What turns quantum flux field vibrations into light? That is conceptualization. That is C. Which gives you an experience. When you're conceptualizing light, when you're conceptualizing vibrations, and you perceive it, you're having an experience. E plus is experience. E minus, energy, everything else. Prana, E. E plus is when that concept turns into an experience. E minus is what you're not experiencing. Every other possible thing, right? So what separates this experience from every other possible experience? Right? How is it that so you have this experience, this entire experience, everything that's happening, and then you have every other possible reality, every other arrangement. So what's separating the universes from each other? From here we move up a dimension, right? So what separates the universes from each other? Because you have the different universes. One of them is selected as the universe, and then what is separating all of them? It's thought. So thought separates all types of awareness. Like every universe is a type of awareness. This is E, this is conceptualization. E plus is all the awarenesses totaled into one. That's the whole universe. So that which steps out of the universe is thought. That's seeing all the different possible universes the way that awareness is seeing all the different possible objects and selecting one. Thought is seeing all the different possible observations and selecting one. All the different possible universes and selecting one. And so when that's happening, you have thought plus. And that's time. I think. I'm pretty sure it's time. Pulling this out of my butt possibly, but I'm pretty positive it's time. Because C is space. Light is voluminous, right? Like the only way that you're getting light or vibrations if there's spaces being moved through. Otherwise, it is something vibrating. It's not light, or it's not code, or it's not information coming from something vibrating. So something vibrating, conceptualization, object out there implies space between. So C is space, T is time. And these are elusive between states, right? These are positive, easy to find that. Space, like space, easy to kind of find that. Or negative would be everything else, energy. But when you get into space, light, you can't really find that. It's the ether, it's a vibration in ether, but what about the space that the ether is moving in? You can't really get to it, right? And so then what's separating that thinking? That is time as well. Because time is the sum total of all the consciousness moving. Like we think time is like a river, but only because of how it's moving right now. Time is like a river, but it's also like an ocean. It's also like a pond. Right? It's also like rain. the behavior of water, right? It's almost like that is water behavior, the surface of water, and this is the movement of the water. Right, and the surface of the water depends on the movement of water, so this is deeper. The movement of water is deeper than the surface of water. And all things are comprised of the surface of water, C. And the surface of water is kind of comprised of or resting on top of T, the depth of water. So that's T. So that's all thinking, time, all movement of water. So you have all of that versus not that, which is quietness. So you have T is basically noise. T minus would be silence. But not even including the idea of silence, which is a noise. Like even the idea of silence is a noise that belongs in T plus. Right? The idea of silence, the idea of T minus is in this category of T plus. So right here, as we go into thought, we get to the edge of existence, to where we start to see a paradox, where the thing is its opposite. Right? This is constantly transmuting to that, because that which is that which you think about is thought, so it's not in the category of non-thought. So even if you were to start to see this category of that which lies beyond thought, silence, that which lies beyond sound, even as you perceive, if you perceive that, it's like the perception lights itself on fire in this reverse way. Right, so here you have conceptualization. What separates conceptualization from other conceptualizations? That's where you're not thinking. So the space between conceptions is silence. So it has a definite location. It's between conceptualizations. And then you have the space between, then you're in silence, right? Let's say you make it into silence. Or beyond silence, you make it into a category where silence is in the same category as noise. Right? That's what void is. The same category, where silence is in the same category as noise. So a koan, you get to a question that breaks your brain. And that's kind of the end of thought. And I'll play with this more later, but this is actually, it has the same behavior as DNA. It has 4 different base pairs. I think. Anyway, yeah, there's a lot of parallels.